Today's guest has taken one of the most read personal development books in history, Think and Grow Rich, and discovered something extraordinary. The book speaks to a secret to success, yet it never fully reveals what it is. Well, our guest didn't stop there. He figured out the missing part of the secret and has turned that into a 12-minute practice that helped him multiply his income by 25 times. Yes, Rise and Thrivers, 25 times. After 2 decades of earning a good living, he broke through to something extraordinary. He now teaches this life-changing technique at the prestigious University of Texas, ranked among the top 5 business schools in the USA. If you've ever felt capable of more, like you're winging your way through life without a system, or that success seems elusive despite your best efforts, this conversation might just change everything. Get ready to discover the full secret of Think and Grow Rich, the science of success, and the powerful daily practice that shifts your results. Please welcome to Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness from Austin, Texas, John Mitchell.
John, thank you. I appreciate that. I think a lot of your audience is going to find what we're going to talk about interesting, but I think the ones that are driven may find it life-changing.
Fantastic. I love that. I've been really looking forward to this interview because Think and Grow Rich is one of my favorite personal development books. It's on the shelf, I should say, behind me. And I didn't really realize that there was a kind of other secret in there that's through the book that you've either got to work out yourself or that was left out on purpose. But I'm really interested to know from you, before you discovered that or realized that, what was driving you back then before you discovered the Think and Grow Rich and what the secret is and went on your journey of helping people?
Well, basically, John, when I turned 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And I had two goals in my life. One was to make enough money so I didn't have to work, and the other was to find the woman of my dreams. And so at 50, I was falling short of both. And on the money, I always did well, okay. Now I wouldn't, well is a relative term, but made a couple hundred grand a year. And but when I hit 50, and John, I realize this sounds materialistic, but I realized I had to start netting over $1 million a year if I was ever going to have the exceptional life I always dreamed of.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the girl at 50, I'd never been married. Did a lot of interviewing, but just couldn't find the right one. And so at 50, I'm puzzled as to how to change things. And so I don't know, probably 3 months after I turned 50, a pearl of wisdom comes to me one night, and it's find the top book in the world and apply that book literally word for word to my life.
Wonderful.
Now, I didn't know what the top book of the world on success was,
Mm.
but I jump out of bed, do a little research, and discover that there's one book that's been read by 150 million people. And it's the top book in the world on success by a factor of 10. And as you mentioned, it's Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
And so when I realized that, I'm like, wow, this is perfect. So next day, I'm like a heat-seeking missile. I head to the bookstore, buy the book, read the book. Then, John, I discovered the problem. As you alluded to, it says there's a secret for success, but the author only gives us half of the secret. He wants the audience to figure out the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm bummed out and I'm mope around for 3 weeks and one day just get up and go, John, just man up, figure out the damn secret. And so I immersed myself in the book over 2 to 3 months and probably read it 20 times and ultimately figure out the full secret and a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And so I started applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage business. And so I start applying it and my income starts to double and double and double to where 4 years later I was blessed to be making 25 times the 200 grand a year I'd been making the prior 20 years. And John, of course, I felt so blessed, But what was really cool was I could see why it was happening. I was just playing the game of life at a higher level, and I could do things I could never do before. And I just had this immense control over my life. And I became fascinated by the fact that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so materially impact your success.
Mm,
And
mm.
so about 10 years ago, I'm like, okay, I'm going to share this with the world. I had made enough money so I didn't have to work. And a couple of months after I sold my company, I met the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas. And he says, hey, you got to teach this at the University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together? And that sort of led to, he introduced me to the athletic director here at the University of Texas. And he says, well, I want to learn this 12-minute a day technique. And that led to becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches. And so today I teach my methodology to both students and athletes in a course called The Science of Success, The Science of Leveraging Yourself. And I teach it to adults by licensing my methodology to coaches and through my book. So that's what I do.
Wonderful, John. What a great journey that you've been on, where you're thinking there's got to be more. I would like to be my best, learn how to become even better than and more successful than what I am. I know I've got to take action to that, doing the research, finding the book. I knew it'd been read by quite a few people, but not 150 million. So if you haven't heard Rise and Thrives of the book, it's by Napoleon Hill. It's called Think and Grow Rich. It's an absolute personal development classic. And many, many people in the world have used that book for success. I know I actually first discovered the book when I was doing a Bob Proctor course, and I know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Bob was very big on that book and read it many times as well. That was also interesting comment that you made, because I believe as well that sometimes you've got to read something over and over to really get it, to really
Right.
understand it at a deep level.
Well, and think about this. So, at least in the United States, only about 1 in 7 people has ever heard of Think and Grow Rich.
Really.
Well, and I'm sure the number is similar in Australia,
Mm, mm,
but what does that tell you about the society we live in when there's one book on success that's the top book in the world on success by a factor of 10, and only 1 in 7 people has heard of it? It tells me we live in a world of clutter, and you can't tell the profound from the mundane. And that's what was so compelling to me when I was 50 was just the law of large numbers tells you there's something
mm.
special about this book that's beyond any other book.
Yeah, and you have to seek it out. So it's not like you'll go to school, which is fantastic how you're getting the opportunity to expose these concepts to
Right,
young men and women in a educational environment, because this is not part of the education system. And I
right,
understand that there'd be reasons for that, because I think the basic premise of the book, as I understand it, is thoughts plus belief plus desire plus action. Those four elements will get results. So that's it in a nutshell. There's way more to it than just that. But just as a summary for our listeners, if they haven't heard of it, and we'll delve deeper into it as well. But yeah, you've got to seek it out. And for those people that do seek it out, they get the results. And so that's part of greatness, in that knowing that there's something more, having a desire to be and do more with your life, because we only get a small slice of time here on the planet. I mean, in the scheme of the universe and the amount of time that's been around, it depends on your beliefs, of course, as well. But even so, you only get a small slice of time. You might get, if you're lucky, you might get 80 or 90 years. You might even get less. What are you going to do with that slice of time? So you've done the research, used the concepts in the book, and have got the results. I've got to ask you a couple of questions about all that,
sure.
including, so we're saying that there's a missing piece of the secret that Napoleon Hill left out of the Think and Grow Rich. Are you able to tell us what that is?
Yeah, let me set it up a little, if you don't mind. Maybe the 30,000 foot view until we get deep into the secret.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the lesson from my story, at least from my standpoint, I'd be curious to see what you think. But from my standpoint, it's a lesson of working smarter, not harder,
Mhm.
and that happened from understanding how the human mind works. And I saw the power of how it impacted all areas of my life, and it truly gave me an edge. But that's my takeaway. What do you think? What do you think the takeaway from my story is?
From my personal experience with the book and this kind of philosophy, what I understand, because and with all due respect, we hear work smarter, not harder often. It's like, well,
Yeah,
I get the concept, but how do you actually do it? So
I'm
my
with you.
yeah, so my understanding, one of my takeaways from this book and these kind of books is that thoughts create things. So you really want to be mindful of what you think, and your thoughts then guide your actions, and a combination of thoughts and actions will produce a certain amount of results. The other interesting thing as well that is sometimes not spoken about in my experience is the visualization of what you want and then
Hmm.
feeling it in your body. So I got a lot of those concepts from Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz's book.
Yeah, big fan of that book.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've read it a few times, and I'm listening to the audio version back in the car literally now. That part is something I really want to work on as well, is that visualizing it and not just seeing it in my mind, but also feeling it in my body. So those are some of the key concepts and takeaways. So if you're mindful of your thoughts, you need to also take the action and then visualize what you want and feel it in your body, and feel those emotions as you're visualizing what you want. Those things
Right,
give you a certain level of, to get a bit cosmic, of vibration that can attract similar vibrations like a tuning fork, and then bring things to you rather than you grasping and trying to get things, if you know what I mean. So yeah, thanks for asking. That's kind of my take on it.
right. Well, let me ask your audience a question. I think this might be enlightening.
Yep.
So just think about it. How do you create success in your life? Just contemplate that. How do you create success in your life? Well, as I talk to people in person, I'll ask them that question, and oftentimes nobody's ever asked them that question before. So they will stumble around for an answer, and they'll come up with something, and I'll sort of recap whatever they said, and then the more pertinent question is, well, how's that working for you? Well, oftentimes not that good. And so, I see that most people are just winging life. They don't really have a way of doing life, and they have nothing pulling them forward to their desired life. And when you dig into this just a little bit deeper, I see that we as human beings have two fundamental problems. First, we're all wired for survival, which causes the vast majority of our thoughts to be fear based. So that's problem number one. Then, problem number two is that 95% of our thoughts and actions are unconscious. Just think about that one. 95% of our thoughts and actions are unconscious. So when we open our eyes each morning, hey, we're on autopilot most of the day, innately wired to be fear based, which feeds that negative inner voice. And boy, I'll tell you, John, that's a lousy way to live. And I should know. I lived that way for 50 years. And again, there's nothing pulling you forward to your desired life. And here's the solution. It's feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself each day. Exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. And when you do that, then the right actions happen automatically. And those right actions then create the life you want. And you have a powerful force pulling you forward to your desired life. and it just takes 12 minutes a day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I do want to get into what it is that we need to be doing for the 12 minutes a day. But before we do, I really love your point about that our mind is often fear based. Now, I know there's good reason for that, is because our mind wants to keep us alive. So if there's
Right,
anything that is out of our comfort zone that might be a little bit of a risk, our mind, one of the first things our mind wants to just go, hang on, are you really sure about this? Because last time you did this, it was an issue, or you know whatnot. I need to keep you here so you're safe and you will survive. And I found that understanding, just like what you're talking about, and giving people the knowledge of that is partly how your mind is working. You can understand that, feel that, thank it for trying to keep you alive, and continue out of your comfort zone anyway. So I know in my life, I've been stopped many times and I didn't realize why, or I would self sabotage. And then it's only now that I've come to understand more deeply these principles that I'm able to say, hey, guess what? Even though I'm doing a lot and I might be feeling a little bit of feelings and emotions, thoughts and feelings about this, and it's feeling fearful, I don't need to listen to that because I'm safe right now. If I look
right,
around here, I'm safe. So there's no need to adhere to those thoughts and feelings. You can break through those limiting beliefs because those limiting beliefs are there for a survival mechanism for survival of the species. I'm safe. It's okay. I'm actually going to pick up this phone and make this phone call and ask someone whether they would like me to speak at their national conference. So,
right.
so that's how it's worked for me.
You're exactly right. I mean, think about it. 50,000 years ago, there was a threat around every corner. So we
Mm,
wanted to be fear based, and we want to be reactive. Uh, we're averse to change. Well, all that stuff was great
mm,
50,000 years ago, but think about it. It's exactly the opposite of how you need to be if you want to be productive, creative, and happy.
yeah.
So I think that being wired for survival is the biggest problem we as human beings face, and we have to override that. And
Yep.
you do the overriding in your morning routine.
Sometimes we say here on the show, "Win the morning, win the day." So interested in the morning routine, and yeah, our it's exactly as you say. That worked for us many years ago, but we have moved on as a species. If I can talk in that context as well, we've moved on, but our primal instincts have not. I guess that they take longer to form than the speed of evolution of which we've evolved as human beings.
Right, right. Well, and let me get a little deeper into explaining what the secret is.
Yeah,
I think we probably set it up well enough.
good.
Um, and I think the way to explain it probably is to let me share a story that's very personal to me, and I'll be vulnerable. So when I turned 50, there was a little more going on in my life than just feeling the scarcity of time. My mom was dying of pancreatic cancer, and she was probably in the hospital in Dallas for like 8 weeks. And so every day after work, John, I'd go see her, I'd hold her hand and love on her and stay there for maybe an hour or two. And it was everything I could do to keep from breaking down in front of her. And so then I would go into the cold, dark hospital parking lot and just cry my eyes out. And I mean really cry,
Mm,
like for 45 minutes, an hour every time before I could even drive home. And again, this is going on night after night and for approximately 8 weeks. Well, I'd never experienced that level of upheaval and that emotional experience being so gut wrenching. I knew obviously I'm losing my mom, but I knew there had to be something deeper. And I don't know that I grasped it at the time, but what I realized later is that I felt like I was letting my mom down with my life. as her life was leaving this world, I'm reflecting on my life. And my mom and dad gave me everything. They sent me to Jesuit high school in Dallas when they really didn't have the money, and they sent me to the University of Texas, and I didn't have to pay for a thing. And so, um, as I'm seeing my mom every night, um, I'm reflecting on my life, and it just feels like I'm letting her down. And she believed in me, she invested in me, and all I had to show for it was an average life. And I hated the average life because I just knew I was capable of so much more.
Hmm.
And as I'm dealing with this, again, every night I'm reading Think and Grow Rich. And what I ultimately realized was that the pain I was feeling was like rocket fuel and causing me to go deeper than any other person on the planet ever had to figure out the full secret. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly does. It makes sense because adversity and hardship does often bring out the best in us, and we look back later and go, yeah, that was hard and I didn't like it, but if it wasn't for that, this
Yeah,
wouldn't have happened. So I'm loving this, John. Please.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was during this time there was one pivotal night where really truly my life changed forever. And like every other night, I went to the hospital and spent time with my mom. And then I go in the hospital parking lot and cry my eyes out for 45 minutes. But for some reason, John, this particular night felt different. It was snowing in Dallas, and it doesn't snow very often in Dallas. And so as I'm starting to drive home, I see the big snowflakes hitting the windshield of my car, and I just feel it. It just feels different. I don't know what that means, but it just feels different. And so I get home and I plop myself in my nice, comfy chair, and I start reading Think and Grow Rich. Again, this is probably the 20th time I've read it. And on this particular night, I read that one's success comes down to your daily actions. Your success comes down to your daily actions. The cumulative effect of your daily actions determines your success in each area of your life.
Hmm.
Well, I buy that. I'd never really thought about it in such simplistic terms, but I buy that. And then I read that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. Huh, that's interesting. And then I'm like, I'm tired and I'm ready to go to bed. So I wash my face and brush my teeth. And John, I get in bed and I'm laying there, sort of staring up at the ceiling. And I can't stop thinking about what I just read, that 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And, as I'm thinking about that, then it really hits me. I don't control my daily actions if 95% of them are unconscious. Yet those daily actions are what determines my success in life.
Mm.
And once I got that, um, I was like getting struck by lightning. I remember sitting up in the bed, and it's like a surreal moment. I'm looking at the snowflakes falling in my backyard, and then I think, well, what controls my daily actions? Well, if 95% of them are unconscious, then it's my subconscious mind, my autopilot. And the subconscious mind is only influenced by repetition. And as I'm grasping this, I'm realizing all this time I've been only controlling my intentions, not my actions. That distinction is important.
Mm.
I've just been controlling my intentions, not
Yeah.
my actions. And really, John, that's when it all clicked. And I realized I wasn't underperforming because I lacked intelligence or drive. Rather, I was underperforming because of a false belief I had about success that I'd had for like 50 years. And that false belief was that I controlled my daily actions. But now I'm realizing I'm getting my eyes opened to the truth. My autopilot controls my daily actions. And again, it's innately wired to be fear based and reactive from being wired for survival. And as again, this was felt like a surreal moment. Then, as those realizations came to me, then the full secret of Think and Grow Rich came to me. And the full secret is what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life.
Right.
And let me say that again so
Yeah.
everybody gets this.
Yeah.
What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means is you create immense clarity about your life. You define here's exactly the person I want to be, exactly what I want to accomplish, and precisely how I'm going to achieve my clearly defined goals. And you create that clarity by using a template that I created. And so you get that clarity on the template, and then you feed it to yourself each day, and it takes 12 minutes a day. And when you do this, three key things happen. The first thing that happens is you have this immense sense of control over your life. Well, of course you would. You're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life. Of course you're going to feel control. And then the second thing you experience is you feel confidence, which is a direct result of the control you have. And additionally, you actually feel lighter and less stressed because the mind thrives on order and you're creating immense order in your mind.
Mm.
And then the third thing that you experience, and this happens after about 21 days, the magic happens and the science kicks in, and then the right actions start happening automatically. And then those right actions create the life you want. And you begin playing the game of life at just a higher level. And again, it's impacting all three key areas of your life, your career, your health, and your romantic relationship. And it's truly life changing.
That sounds amazing, John. So rather than just winging it and being on autopilot for the and that 90% of your life is like that, I wonder how that number actually got formulated because it does sound really high. And I'm wondering if there's people out there thinking, well, is it really that much? Because, I think I'm hungry, I'll go and get something to eat, or I really want to go and do this, so I'll go and do this. So you are consciously thinking about some of the things that you want to have in your life. I totally get that subconsciously a lot of things are running even without your awareness, even just breathing. I don't have to think about it. Say to myself, breathe in now, John, breathe out now, John, breathe in now, John.
Right.
So that's subconsciously happening in the background and I don't have to do anything with it. But I hear what you're saying. You're saying it's more than that. It's a lot of our thoughts and actions are also being driven by the subconscious that are fear based and that are trying to keep us safe. I just struggle just personally. I'd love to talk to you about this with the 95%. That just seems so much.
Well, I am really glad you brought that up because we live, we live in this world where people are throwing facts around, and you don't know what's a fact and what is not. And because this methodology I'm teaching is fundamentally based on 95% of your daily thoughts and actions being unconscious, you got to believe that. And what I do with people that I work with, the first thing I do is I have them go to Google and literally key in what percentage of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious.
Mm.
And what they'll see in big dark letters is 95%. There's no quibbling about it. That number has been well established in the success and human achievement field. It
Mm.
gives you the Harvard study, but there's a hundred studies that confirm this. And so, um, but once you get this, your life is never the same. And I love that you brought it up because here's what happens a lot of time with me.
Mm.
I'll go on a podcast and I'll say that, and the podcaster may not push back on it like you did a little. So I feel like it's valuable when the podcaster does that. But most of the time, I'll ask them, do you believe that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious? And they will go, yeah, I do. And then I'd ask them, well, what are you doing about it? I mean, how can that not impact you? And I thought about this a lot, and I see that it impacted me so powerfully because at the very moment that I realized in Think and Grow Rich that your success comes down to your daily actions,
Mm,
immediately after I learned that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And I think it was that combination of me learning those two things at the same time that made it so profound for me. And
mm,
so I want your audience to have that aha moment that I did, because once you see that, the big takeaway is that your subconscious mind controls your life, literally controls your life. And it's either your greatest asset
mm,
or it's your greatest nemesis in life. And
mm.
if you do nothing to impact it, you're going to keep on being fear based and reactive, and you're going to get an average life because the vast majority of people are just winging life. And if you do what everybody else is doing, maybe you're getting an average life. And alternatively, you can stop winging life and take control of your subconscious mind. Again, it only responds to repetition. And so that's the power of feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself. And when you do, then you control those 95% of your daily thoughts and
Mm,
actions.
mm.
And it's a complete game changer.
Yeah, it sounds like, thanks for explaining that, because it sounds like it's a gift that everybody has, and sometimes it remains unopened. But when you realize that it's there, to open it up
Right.
and to use it for your desires and for you to show up as your best self, then you've got something on your side that was always there, just waiting to be used.
Right. Well, and I see that the big change in my life was understanding how the human mind works. I did not understand that until I
Mhm.
got to be 50, and everything changed. I went from working harder to working smarter,
Mm.
and that's why I saw a 25x increase in my income. And I think, let me give you an example
Sure.
of this that I think the audience will appreciate
Mm.
now that they, as a foundation, we've sort of, they understand it basically. But here's an example, and this is pertains to my health, and I'll give you one on income here in a minute. But